Idaho County is the size of Vermont and has 18,000 people. It's the size of a state, and it touches Montana, Washington, and Oregon. So it's a big county that's sparsely populated. This area is very famous among fishermen and hunters for just being prime. That's how people end up moving here. They come up hunting or fishing, and then they're like, oh, I love it, and they move here. I lost a Sheltie dog, and so I finally found a Sheltie on Craigslist here.
They're definitely Longhorn.
And I said, I'm coming out. I said, and it's 2,500 miles from Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty. And so I pick up the puppy and I said, I'll be back. And I had already planned to move from Baltimore, but by and large, this is as opposite as you could get to Baltimore. You know you're not in the city. You're not in the 9 to 5.
Hi, Jeannette.
You can park either side.
Okay.
Hey, Queenie. Well, now they need treats. Yeah.
So they're kind of like your pets. I mean, you took one to the vet today.
Yeah, they're very much my pets. There you go, Pinky. There you go, Sparrow. Who wants to jump? Who knows the trick? Yeah, that's good. That's good, Brody. You're showing off. There you go.
Because to me, they look very much alike, but to you...
They have different colors on their right and left legs. And so that's why I'm going, hi, Brody. A carton of eggs here is like $5 currency. Sometimes I sell them, but one time I was at the garden center and I was $2 short. And the lady behind me says, I'll cover you. I'm like, really? And I go out to my Subaru here and I saw a carton of eggs and I thought, huh. And I go back and I said, do you need eggs? And so I gave her the eggs and I got $3 more.
Did you like the city, or were you looking for something rural? I mean, because there's obviously a huge difference between Baltimore and then this sort of natural environment.
I think it's a bit of a shock. Living here, first I just lived here in a trailer and getting ready to build. I would walk around in a spa robe with my coffee and think, I feel like I'm on vacation. Why is that? Well, it kind of looks like a state park.
So you came here and you built your own home?
Yes. Well, I really needed to get a roof over my head, and I didn't like what I was looking at. I wanted it to land like a cat.
Okay.
And just not be on a foundation like some of the other houses. And I wanted it to converse with the mountains. And I wanted natural, whatever my 3 colors were, I wanted them to be of the nature here, the hayfield and the fir trees.
And which one's your home?
I live in the green one.
It's interesting. They do almost look like Conestoga wagons or something really fitting to this area.
Oh, I never would have thought of that. They came through the Snake River, so that's down Boise way. You can't come in a wagon across here. That's why it was settled. How much later this was settled to Maryland is like 300 years. It's too rugged. This around here was Nez Perce Treaty land, and it wasn't open to white settlers to 1895. So this state does not have much more than, if you're 5th generation, you're as far as it goes. It really was the last state settled of the lower 48.
And how did you get the land?
I looked at this and I thought, this mountain view is nice. And then I was looking at properties, and there's no building code here. So you can build what you want. You can build anything, will knock yourself out. You do have to get a septic and electric permit. Okay. But there's no plans submitted. There's just a few places where you're not going to have to get an architect to write this whole thing out.
Had you ever built anything before?
No. I was so far over my head. Hey, Copper. This is the instigator of my move here. He says, I'm a Kuski dog. Come here, baby. Good boy.
It actually it feels like a traditional home.
It's drywalled and it's whatever.
And you see the arch in here, you'll see from the inside, it's high.
I think it's 17 feet. I mean, this is 20, and I think that's 17, and that's 24.
It does feel cathedral-like. I mean, it's not as big as a huge cathedral, but on a smaller version.
Yes, I like it open up here. And I got another unsolicited suggestion. Jeanette, have you ever thought of running the entire loft, a whole second floor? And I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I want this to open up. What are you looking at?
It's interesting because you're 71 and you're kind of taking this on at an older age when there's a lot of people who are young building their first house, but you said, like, why not learn it at an older age? That's not a problem.
I really just wanted to sell my house in Baltimore and buy a place to live, and I didn't like what I was looking at. And I sort of would admit I'm up for adventure, and it really had to happen. Let's put one foot in front of the other and see where we end up. What copy doodle? This is the house that you two built. In Baltimore, I did have a historic row home from 1848 that I worked on. Okay. So I would put in riserless treads or replace the deck. And so I think something comes in.
So you started with the work unit?
The workshop was the first thing, and I was staying at the KOA before I moved up here, the campground down in Kamei, the nearest town. And with the son of the owner, we built a prototypical arch. So we did a prototype arch on a jig, and it was very, very strong. An elephant could have stood on it. And then I built this with one helper. First, I just lived here in a trailer, which is the story of everyone who moves here. They live in a trailer or whatever, and they build a yurt, or they live in a greenhouse, or live in a schoolie. So I'm in my trailer and getting ready to build the little workshop. My guy that helped me with this, Brandon, well, he'd never done an arch cabin. And he goes, I think we should just do a regular flat roof shed. So I'm like, okay, Brandon, everything's coming to make arches and to roof metal them. And it was funny for me, my main builder, he had so much more experience than me. And then I'd say, well, I think we have to do it this way because of what I researched. And he goes, some people have built a lot and some people have watched a video.
And who was right? The arch worked.
Let's see, who was right? I think I was. Maybe.
It's not a complete arch, it's more of a Hershey's Kiss or something.
I know you've done some Quonset huts. That's a very flat arch. Yes. The Gothic arch of a church is a very steep arch. And this is an equilateral arch. And it's what's typically used for cabins. It's not super church and peaky, and it's not that squat look. To me, it's very graceful.
And is it good for snow?
Yes. The snow just falls off of it, and since it's an inverted boat hull, the wind kind of pushes it down more than updrafts it, although the tallest cabin, we do have a lot of hurricane straps. Okay. We bolted those for the updraft.
And you chose this shape instead of doing a Quonset style or...
It just looks graceful to, and in part because I bicycled around Ireland in the early 80s, and there's a place of the Galaris Oratory, which is the monks were in this ancient stone, small version of this, but stone. And you look at it and you're like, how did you do the part where you're coming up to the peak? It looks like the stones would fall, but somehow you did it. And so my trailer was here. There's a hookup for septic.
So you didn't live in this one?
I never lived in it. It does have electric.
This is the prototype.
This is the prototype. It's 12 by 20. This is affordable. You don't have a second story loft, so you don't have to rent a lift to put your roof metal on. This doesn't have a finished floor, and this is just a thin plywood here. But the materials and labor were $11,000, and that's at the peak of materials. These are my dad's saws. Okay. Basically, my great-grandfather had a sawmill in Nova Scotia, Canada. And then my paternal grandfather was a carpenter. And I have shipbuilders on both sides of my family. I feel like I had a decent starting point because my dad had me do the drywall in an addition when I was 8. And when you do something when you're 8, you're never intimidated. He's like, go do the corner bead. And I'm like, okay, like $2 for like months of work.
And you could actually do that at 8?
Yes, and I didn't know I couldn't do it. so it happened.
So then you started to build. These are the same exact shape, or did you change anything?
I think it's an identical arch. And now we're going to a 20 by 24 size. These are 20 by 24. That was 12 by 24.
Okay.
You always want to go divisible by 4 because all of your 4 by 8 sheets of plywood and everything lands. We've got the pressure treated 12s. A few 10s that aren't pressure treated. This is from the order of 6s that we used as bracing for the sonotubes. Some OSB, mini cabins, and they're really rolling. Concrete piers are done, and the beams and joists. And you can see how the sonotubes turned out, and I think they are great. We have the floors in both. I'm going to be putting on joist hangers today. One of the cabins faces due west. The deck in the back, pretty simple. Each of these cost $125 labor and materials.
Labor too.
Correcto. Idaho County, it's sparsely populated, which played into my build here. My crew was like grandmothers and teenagers.
Hello.
Louie, say hi. A warm body. Let's build this.
How long did it take?
20 months. It would have been a lot faster if I had a general contractor. Now, my brother said, you can GC it yourself and save the money. I'm like, okay, but I paid a penalty on it taking longer. The metal panels, that was a barn raising where I think we had 4 people on it, and we literally threw ropes over the ridge beam and tied them to each panel, and we would have somebody needed to be over here in a lift, and that was my neighbor Steve with the drill and the roofing screws. And there were 3 of us on the other side, like a teenager, a grandmother, and me, with ropes. And we couldn't see what was happening. So Steve would go up trailer side, or he'd go up Grangeville, and that's the city of Grangeville. So we were just doing this until it lined up correctly. You know, this color would line up over here, and he would yell, stop! And then he'd push it in and he'd ride a lift down and put the screws in, which we had already drilled on the ground, and they're meeting the arches behind. Both cabins are watercolor. They each have 3 shades. So the delivery guy, Brian, and I said, Brian, what do you think of 6 colors? And he goes, I don't like it. There should be 1 color, and they should both be that 1 color. And I didn't know if this would work until we got the lowest rows. We didn't have this one yet, but we had the dark chocolate bottom row. And then we had what I think of as a milk chocolate color. And then I saw it and I'm like, oh, this works. The delivery guy was too pessimistic and I like it okay.
Yeah.
What determined the position of each one of them?
Oh, I wanted the copper one to face the highest point of Snow Haven, Mount Idaho. And so to make 24 by 20, I had yay many 10-foot lengths, and I was just nudging them. Like, let's really line this up with the peak, and that's basically to the southwest. This one was trying to be a straight east-west. The straight east-west means I get great sunset. So from this cabin, I don't take a sunset picture unless it's AAA plus amazing, because otherwise I would have terabytes. I would need a storage building for my sunsets.
It's interesting. So they're raised. I mean, they're raised quite a bit. But there's no flooding here. Is there a reason for that?
In the springtime, there is about 2 inches of standing water on here because I think this is hard pan. I think some of these pastures have been a little mistreated with driving on them. You know, you go about 18 inches and then you get almost like a pond liner clay. Okay. So there's standing water here in the spring. I think neighbors have problems with that, so I'm like, we're going up.
So the foundation is just pillars?
Yeah, it's called post on those sonotube concrete.
And you put your chickens under the house?
Yes. These cabins are an accidental perfect habitat. They can hide from hawks. And so this was pallets. If you start with pallets and then you break down the pallets and take the strips, you can do board and batten, where the little strips are covering any gaps. This chicken coop uses 2 of the pallets that my solar panels came on. And I put 1 here and 1 here. And then I got free pallets and went upright to make the sidewalls, and there's a lot of insulation in them.
So you were removing all the, do you have to remove nails or do you have to take it apart? I mean,
It was crowbar city, yeah.
but you get that aged look of the wood, which is great.
And I used up all my scrap. That's the same siding as on the house. So the only money in this is those are polycarbonate seafoam roof panels, and they let in 80% of the light. So that gives them more light. And that was like $300. This nesting box has runaround Sue in it, and they lay here. But right now she's on 6 eggs.
6 eggs.
So she might hatch out in another couple weeks. It takes 21 days for them to hatch. And so these, I kind of got the idea to have open wire from India, Africa, Asia. It gets 105 degrees here. So I thought I'm gonna make lots of doors with, this is so a predator can't rip in.
Okay.
There's 2 layers of wire. There's clips to put polycarbonate panels in the winter here. And this is a raccoon-proof latch. And in here, this is the gal that went to the vet today. Her tail is down and she's not laying her eggs properly. I made this divider so I can have a sick bay or they can raise their babies in here.
Okay.
And I told a friend of mine at church coffee hour, I said, Mary, I built the coop, you helped me figure out where to put it on my property. I said, it's a mix of hillbilly scrap and Benjamin Moore's color of the year. And she says, your chicken coop is shabby chic. And I'm like, that's called a chicken tractor. And so this is a cattle panel that you bend into a 4x8 frame. There's 4 teenagers living here. And when a hen has some older babies, they can have a little more space here and run around.
So it's not for them to fertilize the field and you take it out?
You could. And so I've taken them out on grass. And then you bring them in at night.
What is this, black water, gray water?
This is both black and gray. And there was kind of a debate to be had about burying it so it wouldn't potentially freeze or doing it like this. You're supposed to do about 1/4 inch per foot, which is about 2%. So that should be enough downslope. But I did add this heat tape. You don't put it at the bottom because it would sag. So you put it about 7 or 8 o'clock. And so even if it's doing a bit of sagging, it's still touching here. You don't want to insulate the whole thing because that's going to keep cold in as well as heat in. But these just hold the heat tape in place, and they do add a little bit of protection near joints in the pipe.
What you use for heating and cooling is so silent.
Oh, that's a mini split. It's a heat pump. It does AC and heating. People here have 95 things. They have redundancy. I have propane. That's a generator under that carpet. I have solar. I have the solar batteries, and I have portable propane heaters.
Are you connected to the grid?
I'm grid and off grid. Right now we're off grid, but I'm on it, and I can go there all through the winter.
Let's say the grid goes down.
If the grid goes down between May and October, I don't even know it's down. It's a good self-sufficiency. Like last February, I was up here 13 days before I could get my driveway.
What happened?
Just a big snowfall, and
Yes.
it took a while to get someone to plow. And so I had dried soup and canned soup, the eggs.
Were you uncomfortable or?
I got through it, and it was a rite of passage for me, being from an East Coast city. Can I do this and not freak out? If you have food and heat and a good book, it's okay. Romaine.
Oh.
For the winter. It'll go out and be planted in the cold frames. Eggs from the birdies, indoor green onions.
How hard was it because you don't have a straight wall?
You always had to be aware of it. We used thin enough drywall to bend it. The arch, the first 4 feet is flat, and then the curve takes off. And so it has to go from here to there, and then as it's heading toward its peak, it's flattish. And so where it's really starting to bend is kind of the takeoff here, and then it did crack in one place, but it was just, I think it was on that wall. It's making a gradual curve, and it broke only in one of the cabins, not both, was I think there, was just asking a lot of it, but we were able to camouflage it. This is the individual arches that we fabricated. They are made of strips of OSB on 2x6 blocks. The bending occurs when these strips of OSB, they're on a jig and you're bringing them to a form and you end up with the perfect shape. We had to put pillars to hold this big birch beam to hold the loft. So I had leftover cement board from the shower, and I put it here, and I put something called feather finish on it, which is a concrete finish, and I colored that. And that's also, the counters are also left over. It's like a faux concrete. It's just thin shower cement board called Hardy Panel with the feather finish, concrete finish that I dyed dark brown, and then a 2-part epoxy on it. So it looks concrete-y, but
I love it.
it's like no waste, trying to have no waste.
The exposed wood is really nice.
Thank you. The open shelves are kind of in. And people say, you got to keep your shelves nice if you're going to do open shelves. So that's the tricky part. But I'll forget what's behind the door. Where is the macaroni? I don't know. I have to open it all up. And there's one thing I can show you that was a cool YouTube discovery. Somebody, they used blue tape to show where the shelves went. You know, a counter is 36. And so I blue taped it. And then I looked at the instructions for the vent. You know, this has to be this high and this has to be this high. And my builder said, you want whatever for your microwave. And so the next blue tape went here, about 18, and then another blue tape went here, also another 18, and then bearing in mind that this should not be too far, too close to the stove.
So the wood here, I like how weathered it feels. You weathered it.
Yes, I used a propane torch, and you burn it, and I think it reveals the grain. And then there's a tool called a restorer, and it's very heavy, and it's got a wire brush that's going zzz. So you do that, and the ash flies everywhere, and it goes very light. And then I applied a linseed oil finish to it, and I just like this. This is sort of just a basic heavy round-headed screw. And I thought that looks kind of Western. And the lowest shelf here, I made so that a robot vacuum could go under.
So you just hang everything off the side. That's great.
Yeah. This is pegboard. Some storage tricks are under the sofa and under the bed, rolling storage units, and on the side of the fridge, there's a little magnet for spices. Even here, I'm like, this is going to be open, and it's going to hold the aluminum foil and my anchovies and a little dog. Oh, and under the stairs, like here's the wardrobe, is on hooks. And I don't have anywhere else to, but yeah.
This space feels big for layout. You were saying it's 20 by 24. Having the deck makes it feel bigger.
Yes, the deck is 8 feet. The roof metal comes out 4 of the 8 feet, so you're kind of protected from the weather to an extent. Hi, you guys. And here's something convenient. If you have scraps, like you've topped and tailed your green beans, you can come out here and go, phew. Are you waiting for scraps? Yes, they're talking about it.
The chicken's great. So you're surrounded by hayfields.
Yeah, yep. Well,
Yeah.
this is, well, it's a mix. Hayfields, and then pasture for horses, and then that's a hayfield. One thing I never knew until I came out here is if you have cows or horses, you need, and say you have 20 acres, 10 of them need to be hay to feed them through the winter. And so they've got the longhorns, and that's pasture. And he did my hayfield once and put it in the hay barn, and then he does other neighbors' hayfield. So there's this ratio that you gotta get right. These are things I didn't know in Baltimore, and there's a long list of them.
Yeah.
The things that I've had to learn, like trailers and straps and hitches, stuff that you just don't. In Baltimore, I didn't have a car
Oh, really?
for 30 years. I just had 2 bikes.
Do you miss Baltimore?
I loved my house there. I'll miss the water forever. And I drive up here, it doesn't feel as home as it is, but there's nothing to do here, and there's everything. You want time and a pretty locale. Oh, we're getting a muted sunset today. These, I think of these ones as like the Lewis and Clark sunsets. The real Nez Perce native, it's softer. And if you're here in the winter, you're going to be above little wisps of cloud that just fly in. Do we have a copper? Shut up, it's elk.
Is it elk?
I think it's elk.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Consider yourself. I take a picture every day I see them so I know what days they visited. I first chose this land because it was the only available choice for me that didn't have the demerits of abandoned vehicles adjacent or a problematic build. So it was in a sense more of a default than a depreciation. But something changed after the settlement on this land. I had people approach me to subdivide and sell them off some acres, and I said no, whereas I might have been agreeable to this before I settled. Afterwards, I felt like a mother handed her baby at birth. This has been handed to me, and I really love it.
Is it?
Yeah, they're darker and they're more like camel heads.
Where would they come off the mountain?
I think, yeah, they go up there. They come that way in the spring. And this time of year, my gosh. Can be like a Disney movie. That's just sort of what is the magic around here, is to see them, even if you've seen them a lot. I did sense that this landscape was best served by something, whether conventional or not conventional, that rose up and echoed the Bitterroot Range in the backdrop. So it's not unconventional for the sake of being different, but more to be in harmony. I feel like the cabin's something functional and not intrusive, and part of what's naturally carved around here. The highest compliment anyone could give is that the structures that I built are floating in nature.
Quite impressive. I mean, it opens in a way that, the whole property, because you don't have any, you kind of sort of see how the day goes, right? Literally.
I remember being on the couch once, and I looked to my left, and there's this blazing science fiction sunset behind it, and I just go zip, and I take it to church coffee hour, and every week people want to see what I've got for my sunsets. And these are local people. They grew up here, and they know the Idaho sunsets, and it ain't me, it's that sky out there.
Right up the right spot on the hill, the right face, the very angle of the house. I mean, you planned your house right.
I guess I did, and on top of that, like in another 15 minutes, the chickens will go in, and half the time I'm like, just going down my hill, like, I put the chickens away, and then it'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a flame coming on the side of the copper metal. There was a decision how to get up here. Ship's ladder. You'll see some arch cabins with steps in the wall. And finally I thought, if I'm gonna have guests, I want them safe, so I'm gonna get a spiral staircase. It's safe, but it took a bite out of here. And so we're building it, and we don't know yet what's gonna fit, because it's just like one step at a time, and then you eventually figure out what you have. And so once this was in, nothing fits that easily. I learned that if you take like a 14-inch metal bed frame or whatever it might be, and you cut it to 8, it's low enough to start moving into this wall. And then that starts to fit here.
This is your bedroom then?
It is, but it's still a work in progress. And then I had all this scrap blue pine. This is screwed in and this is chained in, but this can be moved anywhere. So for a while, just trying to figure out what I want to do with it. And so this is clothes storage. This is a lot of winter stuff and blankets.
So here we're in the arch right now.
We're in the drywalled arch. Oh, the arches in the workshop, they're every 4 feet. And when we put the outer plywood on them, so it was dolphining because that was too far. So I said, we're going to do 2 feet here. So there's one behind here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 is about half here. And each sheet of drywall is 4 by 8. And you can see the arch is real flat here. So if you're doing and they run this way. So if you're 4 by 8, this first one doesn't curve this much. The next 4 feet, that's pretty flat. Now we're asking it to kind of start to bend a lot because the arch is just going that way. But it was fine without wetting and without scoring it. I think we used, I want to say we used 1/2 inch, but we kind of got away with not having to do anything but screw it in and mud it.
Do you feel different being in a different shape home? Because you're used to sort of square boxes probably.
I guess it's sort of like my everyday magic. This is kind of fun. You know, when I came here, I had the family that sold me the puppy. They helped me enormously to get my feet on the ground, and they had done tons of building of their own home. And so they go into a side room and they come back with blueprints or, plans. And they're going, here's a 3-2. He's a 3-bed, 2-bath. And it's square in its footprint and it comes up 2 stories and it's got a roof. And I'm just like, you don't know me very well. I don't think we're going to do that.
Do you have a solar fridge or a regular fridge?
Regular fridges are super efficient now. And so overnight, let's see what our solar is doing. So the sun's going away and it's only making a few kilowatts. We're at 92% state of charge. That means it's the batteries. Okay. And the load is 1.3. I probably just cut it in half by turning my mini split off. Usually there's kind of a hit on the batteries right around now for about 2 hours. And then it gets really cool here. So even if you like a lot of air conditioning, it's not really putting a strain on anything.
Stove you're using?
This is 2 propane. And again, we're doing redundancy. This is electric. Once the batteries charge completely, which is about noon, like they got dipped at the night, and then in the morning they build up and they're at 100% at noon, I can boil water, do some cooking just to use free energy. And then in the winter, that wouldn't apply so much. I could go to propane here. So the more the merrier.
The bathroom is very big, right?
Yes, and this was a funny thing. It's bigger than what I would have, but it's nice. Now I like it.
Quite generous.
Wow.
So 8 by 10. There's a barn door here.
Oh yeah, nice.
I remember burning this. That was fun. And this is regular cedar shiplap, nickel gap. Put the nickels here. This is aromatic cedar. This is almost the most tiny house feature is the washer and dryer. These are very low energy use. I think it takes 200 minutes to dry loads. This is a compact washer. Okay. It's just smaller.
That's all the laundry you probably need.
But I have no problem with making this work for everything, even little rugs. And then the dryer can be floor or wall mounted. There's feet here. It's low energy use, so you have to allow time. Does that say 200 minutes? The lint filter is in the back there. I mean, this works fine.
Can you run the dryer sometimes on solar only?
It's great on solar in the daytime because in the daytime, those panels are rockets. Yeah. And so they're charging those 4 batteries. You can go crazy. You can run both dryers during the day. You have good solar when you have sharp shadows under the panels. But then say at 6 or 7 or sometime like that, and it's softer shadows, it'll hammer the batteries. And I recently had some guests, and they would start the dryer a bit late. We had a ferocious thunderstorm. And I had to go say, look, I can't go on grid. We might lose power. We do a lot. So I asked them to just for our safety margin. And they were very good about that. So yeah, you're always thinking about how are the shadows and how am I going to cook and dry?
I like this. This topic, is this the same?
This is the same idea as the counters. And I thought, I want a rustic vanity and I don't have time to make it. So let me price them. Well, they were $800. And I'm like, I have a little time. I will make this. And so this is so much scrap. This is extra roof metal. I couldn't easily find how to make my own molding, but I just figured I'll cut an L shape on a table saw and that worked. And this is more of the extra hardy panel from the shower surround with that cement finish and the 2-part epoxy. The big 6x12 birch beam that came on these 4x4s. This is what's called dunnage. This is leftover. This is the outdoor cedar. I commissioned this design to go on the hill, and I showed it to a builder. He looked at a topographical map, and he said, when the wind comes up the draw, these 2 patios that you want are going to want to fly up. And I thought, I don't want to fight the geography. I don't want to fight the wind and I don't want to fight the snow. I sat there and I barely know SketchUp, and it wasn't rectangles. You couldn't just do an arch. You have to find an arch and make it work. But I drew 2 cabins, and for a while I think I was going to put them side by side, but then I'm like, orient to the mountain and the sunset, and lo and behold, there's some buildings here. Nicholas, how did that happen? I don't know how it happened.
And you did that on your own?
Yeah, we just worked on it. I drew the half loft, I drew the bathroom, and then I did, you notice the deck come out 8 feet and make it bigger. So I said, I want this multiples of 4.
You were the architect, in a sense. I mean, you designed.
It's a timeless design, but yes, I did.
And you were the engineer in the end? I mean, you didn't have an engineer.
Dan, the guy that said my first design, we walked around, I think, underneath here, and we staked out, and he said, you need tripled 2x12s. So that was the engineering, and we ran with that. And these have not sunk yet, so.
So like one line of engineering, one sentence of engineering.
The platform is made by 3 tripled 2x12s. You can see 1, 2, 3 here, and then you have joist between them, and it's covered with T111, which is this all-purpose shed thing, so that mice can't get in. So a problem with a metal building, like say you wanted to live in a warehouse or a school bus, they have condensation. And so between this beam, do you see some screen here? And the outer here?
Yeah.
There is a layer of air rushing between each arch that's entering here. It's taking off that humidity. If you see the ridge metal, piece of metal like this, and a gap, we fabricated screens on the metal so that the air exits. And what that does, my YouTube guru, Jeannette Belliveau, among many other people, he invents something called a cold roof. Between each arch, there's this screen entry at the bottom, and it goes through a little gap and it comes out the top. And we were bird-proofing that gable recently, Harold and I, and he said that air is rushing, and it's hot, and it's moist, and it's got 3 inches of foam. So I think you're going to find this very comfortable. When I finally landed on the arch cabin design, the interior lighting maxes out at about the 20 by 24 size that I did. If you go larger, you might need a dormer to admit light. So that's kind of the best size for lighting. And you can't really share that with people. So that pushed me into doing 2 modest buildings instead of 1 large one with a dormer.
So you've started planting an orchard, it looks like.
Yes, I've been working on it the last 5 years. We've got plums and cherries and apples. Oh, those are French green beans on one side and then table grapes on the other.
So you're planting their future here.
I know, I'm like 71 years old. Why am I planting a tree that's going to take this long? I don't know, but there it is. I like to 80-20 rule things. You know, I'm going to do the easiest 80%, and I'm not going to do the cow and the goats, at least not yet. I'm not doing the hardest 20%. Chickens and tomatoes and beans. Yeah, and the fruits and the herbs. This is, over here is sunflowers. This is an area of trench soil that is heavily clay. You could really work hard to, you know, put organic material in it, or you can get something with deep roots that breaks it up. And sunflowers are working now to restore this clay. And I also have, there's little plants in there, and that's okra. And I'm bound and determined to get some okra going, even though it's kind of pretty far north for here. And I'll do better with it next year. So this is just the lazy woman's way of fixing some clay so I can do more things with it. I did the decks, and there was some very interesting arm wrestling because 2 of my workers said, Jeannette, after we do the platforms, we really want to do the decks. And I said, well, I know how to do the decks. And they said, we really want to do the decks. And I said, but I love doing decks. Decks are like simple. They're very fun. You just lay them down with this easy spacer. I have camo screws. They're sort of a hidden screw, and you have this spacer that you grip, and it just goes easy, and it's very contemplative and easy. So I did the decking here. I couldn't figure out how to design getting up to here. And so I finally thought one day, let me do an homage to my 2-level deck in Baltimore. And if this was to be looked up from above, it's like a stealth bomber. And I had drawn this in SketchUp. I said, I figured out how to do it. It was a little complicated. I think this is 8 by 8 and this is bigger. I had to figure out how to center this on this unusual angle. Then I needed to think about steps, and I didn't want concrete. So these are railroad ties. And I just drilled and put rebar in, and they are incredible. They're more than 100 pounds. So you can get the LDS, the Mormon church, has young missionaries, and they have to do 10 hours a week of service. So I dial them up, and it was so heavy, and they helped me manhandle them, and they're not allowed to use power tools. It has to be handwork only. So we got those in, and I did the drilling, and they helped. I think they were allowed to help me pound the rebar in. And then the question became the tar coming up. So this is just those cheap AstroTurfs. Oh, and these are some pavers that I got on a whim, and I just wanted to fill them with stone to have them dry out more quickly than here. And mud is just an issue, and so this would be drier, and you could clean your boots off a bit. And as it turns out, the white drainage rock, you don't almost need a light anymore. From my vision, now I've got a good, it's almost like a yellow stripe, functionally. This is drying.
Oh.
Two clothes dryers.
Oh, that's fabulous. You want to hide those things. I've never seen anything like that.
That's the greatest, just a fold out.
Because they're not attractive.
So you can just air dry things here. I did a mix. I taught Kevin how to do the cable railing, and he did an awesome job on the back decks. And I think Kevin did this.
Okay.
I did these. And I have a friend who's a music major, and I said, Jeannette, I want you to tune these. I just tightened these ones.
For a song? That sounds terrible. It's not tuned yet, so.
Okay. In here, you won't believe it, I did the wiring. I did the panel wiring. This is called a Leviton box, and this is something that the electricians here are loving. If I were to pull this cover off, unlike a traditional panel where the wires come into a breaker, on these, the wires come into the perimeter of the box. The breakers go snap, 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 snap. And after a certain point, this is maybe almost twice as fast. And Harold ran the wires, say from the light to the box, but I did all the final assembly of that and putting the breakers in.
How did you know how to do this? Because have you ever wired anything or ever done any electric?
I think I did in Baltimore. I think I had overloaded circuits in Baltimore, so I had to add breakers and put them in.
So you learned from your old house in Baltimore?
Tons. Yeah. I did all my own work if I could. It was hard to get people. So, but this was another, just a little bit step better. So I did that, and the day bed.
You did this?
This I did too. No. I still had scrap, Kirsten. I still had scrap after the chicken coop.
So this was pallet scrap?
This is blue pine. We're still flooring. And so what this is I took a metal bed frame, like a commercial bought bed frame, just so I wouldn't have to do the cross slats. So there'd be good support for the mattress. It's a standard twin mattress. And then I had to think out, well, how do these end pieces work? And I've got an echo here with these large bolts of what's over at the counter. And you take like a propane tank with a flamethrower that might be used typically for weeds. So it attaches to the propane tank, and there's a 6 to 10 foot hose, and it goes into a controller and then out to a spout that looks like, you know, you're gonna just be in a horror movie and burn things down. And so you burn it to a certain point, and you can go to what's called alligator skin, and that's when it's really blistered and black, and that's going to take a lot of grain out. Or you can do a lesser amount, and I did a more modest amount to preserve more of the wood. And then there's a tool that looks like a belt sander, but in it you put these wire brushes of like 3 different grades, coarse, medium, and fine. You do that, and the grain in between the raised parts goes away and it gets really light. And then I finished it with a mix of paint thinner, boiled linseed oil, and melted wax. And then it got a little more gleamy again.
Are you assured that you're not going to burn the wood? It won't catch fire or burn.
Well, you have a set up hose and a bucket. And the wood isn't really gonna, the wood might do a little line of flame and die, but your grass nearby will catch if you're not.
But the wood doesn't catch fire because it's too compressed?
I think so. A 2x4, it's just compressed. It doesn't want to go up like a wood shaving. Okay. To make all of these tables, you do something called a panel glue up. You take your scrap wood, you're gonna mark, and they're all on the back side, you're gonna mark match-up lines, and maybe you can do this many at a time. And I drilled dowel holes. No, biscuit joiner. You have all your marks, and you probably want these every 8 inches to have these joineries. And you have a little thing that looks like a flat wafer. And you have a tool that goes zim, 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 zim at all of your marks. And then you put glue between the edges, and the biscuits are sitting through one side, and then you put the other one on it, and you clamp it all together. And that's called a panel glue up. You can't really get a board this size, unless you're doing one of those giant, where they cut across an entire log. But if you just have leftover boards, you can use a biscuit joiner to put them together and glue them. And then so I had all these boards that were whatever big, and they're all projecting out. And then you put a board on a nail on the side that isn't going to show, and you put an opening for your router bit over here, and then 2 like butterfly screws, and you put it wherever you want it. And you do you spin that board around, and then you get a little groove. And then you make it deeper and deeper. And then you can flip it over to the good side and then finish it with a saw, because you'll be able to feel where you routed that much of it. It's rough, but I kind of wanted it to be rough. I did all the shelves that you're looking at. This is scrap siding. This is cedar. These were at a lumber yard, and I just talked to the owner. I'm like, they're in the discard pile. What's your best offer? So yes, this was done, the leftover concrete board from when you do a bathroom and you panel it, often there's miscuts where all the pipes are coming through. So we're like, oh, let's get a little square out of that miscut.
I couldn't figure out what it was. Like, I can't, between a metal or an earthen material.
That's interesting that it doesn't exactly look like a faux concrete counter. No. It's trying to, but it looks like its own thing.
Yeah, which is great.
The plumbing was interesting because a local plumber did it his own way. The inspector came and he put so many red tags, it was a spectacular fail. So plumbing final is the P-traps to the sink. It's to make sure that there's caulking at the front of the toilet. And the inspector, who had red tagged everything, he comes back for the plumbing final, which I had done. And when I was doing the plumbing final, I was like, if you don't have a drain lined up to the drain in the wall, I was like, what does anybody do about that? Well, the P-trap swivels. This swivels on that. And so you can make any angle work, and then you have to make that length hit it. So I had this epiphany. Oh, well, that's how a drain worked. I went into the builder supply and I said, Peter, I think I figured out plumbing. And Peter goes, security, we have some crazy person here. So I figured out how to do these final little things. The inspector comes and he just walks in kind of like, okay. And so he's like, yeah, it's all good.
Did you do this one too?
Oh yeah. And then he checked that there was caulking in front of the toilet. It was it. And the other funny inspection was the HVAC for the mini splits. The HVAC guy comes and he sees the chicken coop. And he goes, and you should get Muscovy ducks because they will stay. They won't fly off your property. You put up a little pond over here. You can feed a family of 4 with 1 duck. And he's barely looking at the breakers for the HVAC. And it's like, chickens are your passport. Poultry will give you a passport. And the loft up here it's got the cots.
You fit 2 beds in here. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I got the 2 cots. This is an extra large, and the same idea with a fixed and a rotating shelf. This board and the one in the other cabin are also from the solar panels shipping cart. So, like a huge pallet. I mean, I think this is 12 feet at this point. And it's extremely rough, but it fit. I found these 4 half-round windows, 2 per cabin, up at a place that was salvaging things. And you can see how I lined it up with the peak. It's pretty lined up.
Yeah.
It was.
I see the elk out there.
Do you?
Yeah, way out there.
You know, if it makes you feel you are in connection with nature.
Very much. This process stressed me out hugely. It was all on me. I got to get the products in here. I got to schedule the people. I got to pay them. I got to finance it. This is one of the higher stress things you could ever try to do. And when my friend said, you got to think about resale value, and I said, I'm not building it for the next person. I'm building it for me. I can enjoy it now that it's done, more and more every minute. Candy, I hope you're feeling better. Got to do a head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is there one still loose, or can I not count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There was one in the straw.
Okay.
So, do you see how good they are?
Count, right? Yeah.
I don't mind if I have too many, but if I'm low, I'm like worried. Okay, there you guys are in here. But now they're sort of calm, and the babies are being good. They're often on top of the tractor. What, Cassie? You got everyone organized? Good girl. And just in case, some skunks are strong and they can tear wire. So I just have a little more barricade there. And then bigger predators don't like human voices because they think it's someone with a shotgun. And it's Noah, it's not country music. So these chickens know the record low for Walla Walla. I'm gonna quiz them. These are the 9-week-olds. And someone wants to buy all the girls. So I raised them by request. And then I think somebody will run around Sue's babies when those ones hatch. The very recent day when my dad was growing up in Nova Scotia, they didn't have electricity. So at night you would just have candlelight or then dark and just the wind coming off the Bay of Fundy. And they would read the Bible by candlelight. And they're just the most simple, earnest people that build their boats. I looked up the latitude, like who's more north, me or Nova Scotia? And I think I'm a little bit more north, in fact. Maybe some sort of ancient echo is going on here. Sleep tight, Candy.